My name is Vanessa Hale. I'm 32 years old, and 5 years ago, I lost my fiancé, my family, and the version of myself that still believed loyalty meant forever. The burner number appeared on my phone at 4:10 on a rainy Wednesday night, exactly 2 weeks before my wedding. I was sitting alone in the back office of my warehouse in Portland, finishing purchase orders for a luxury hotel contract in Seattle, when my phone vibrated against the steel desk hard enough to make my coffee ripple.
Unknown number.
Seattle area code. My stomach tightened before I even opened it. Normal people don't use burner numbers anymore. Liars do. Desperate people do. People who know you blocked every possible way to reach you do. The message loaded slowly. Vanessa, it's me. I saw your engagement announcement. Please don't marry him before we talk. I deserve a chance to explain everything. I stared at the screen for several seconds without blinking. I knew exactly who me was. Ethan. 5 years. 5 years without a single word from him. No apology, no explanation, no accountability. And now suddenly he was back. I automatically screenshotted the message before I even thought about it. Pure instinct. Documentation had become second nature after everything that happened. Then I walked out into the warehouse. My fiancé, Adrian Mercer, was standing near the quality testing counter reviewing espresso pressure reports with one of our technicians. He looked up immediately when he saw my face. Adrian always noticed things. "What happened?" he asked quietly. I handed him my phone. He read the message once, then again. Unlike most people, Adrian didn't react emotionally first. His mind moved strategically before emotionally. Years in civil litigation had trained him that way. "Burner number," he said calmly, meaning he already knew he was blocked. I nodded. "And he found you because of the business profile last week. Pacific Northwest Business Journal had done a feature on my company. There'd been photos of Adrian and me together at a charity gala. Ethan must have seen it. Must have realized I was actually happy." Adrian handed the phone back carefully. "You want to answer?" "Absolutely not." "But he's not going to stop," Adrian said. That was the terrifying part. Because he was right. I already knew Ethan well enough to understand this wasn't about closure. This was about access. Adrian pulled out his own phone immediately. "Save every message," he said. "Screenshots, dates, times. If this escalates, we build a file." "You think it'll escalate?" "I think people who lose control over someone rarely disappear quietly." I stared at him. God, I loved him for that. Not because he was aggressive. Because he understood. He never minimized what happened to me. Never pushed me toward forgiveness like everyone else had. He kissed my forehead once. "You don't owe him a conversation, Vanessa." I nodded slowly. "I know." But that night, after we got home, I barely slept. Not because I missed Ethan. That part of me died years ago. Number. I couldn't sleep because his message dragged me backward into the worst night of my life so violently, it felt fresh all over again. 5 years earlier, I was supposed to get married on a Saturday in June. The venue was a restored barn outside Seattle. 140 guests. $8,000 in deposits. Custom ivory dress hanging at my mother's house. 4 years together. Everyone used to call Ethan and me the couple that made it. High school sweethearts. College survivors. The stable relationship. The forever relationship. Funny how the relationships everyone envies are usually the ones rotting quietly underneath. The night before the wedding, I was staying downtown with my bridesmaids at a hotel while Ethan stayed at our apartment with his groomsmen. Everything had felt normal. That's the detail that haunted me later. Nothing felt wrong. No intuition. No warning. No sign my entire life was hours away from collapsing. Around midnight, I remembered the backup wedding band was still inside my nightstand drawer at the apartment. The jeweler had given us a spare after resizing the original set. I figured I'd grab it quickly and come back. No drama. No symbolism. Just an errand. I drove through Seattle streets in silk pajama shorts and an oversized hoodie with bride printed across the front. I still remember that stupid hoodie. I still remember unlocking the apartment door. Lights were on. Bedroom light, too. At first, I smiled. I thought Ethan was still awake drinking with his friends. Then I walked farther inside. 2 wine glasses sat on the coffee table. Only 2. That felt strange immediately. Then I heard laughter. A woman's laugh.
Breathy. Low. Intimate.
Not random party laughter. My adopted older sister Olivia's laugh. I froze. For a second, my brain refused to connect the sound to reality. Then I heard Ethan's voice. Soft.
Comfortable.
Familiar in a way that made my skin crawl instantly. I walked toward the bedroom. The door was cracked open. And somewhere deep down, before I even touched it, I already knew. I pushed the door wider. Olivia was in my bed. Ethan was beside her. Both naked. Neither of them looked shocked enough. That was the worst part. Not panic. Not guilt.
Recognition.
Like they'd already rehearsed this moment in their heads. Olivia slowly pulled the sheet to her chest. Ethan sat up hard. Vanessa. I couldn't breathe. Wine bottle on my dresser. Their clothes scattered across my floor. My wedding week gift bags shoved carelessly beside the bed. Everything looked contaminated. I remember staring at Olivia because my brain genuinely couldn't process her face there. She'd been adopted by my father after his second marriage when I was 16. He adored her instantly, protected her instantly, excused everything instantly. And now she was sleeping with my fiancé the night before my wedding. Ethan stood up too quickly. Please, let me explain. Explain what? I heard myself ask. My voice sounded terrifyingly calm. Olivia started crying immediately. But not because she was sorry. Because she got caught. There's context. Context? I repeated. I looked around the room slowly. My fiancé is naked in our bed with my sister the night before our wedding. I laughed once. Small. Broken. What exactly is the missing context? Ethan rubbed both hands over his face. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Olivia finally spoke. It's been 3 months. The room went silent. 3 months. While we were sending invitations. While I was tasting wedding cakes. While our families toasted us at engagement dinners. 3 months. I looked at Ethan. How long were you planning to lie to me? He swallowed hard. Then Olivia said the sentence that destroyed whatever was left of me. He was never really happy with you. I turned slowly toward her. What? She wiped tears dramatically. You were safe, Vanessa. Comfortable. But he loved me. Ethan didn't correct her. That hurt more than the words themselves. You were really going to marry me tomorrow, I whispered. Neither of them answered. And in that silence, something inside me finally cracked beyond repair. I don't remember leaving the apartment. People always expect betrayal to feel explosive. Like screaming. Throwing things.
Violence.
But for me, it felt cold. Like every emotion inside my body suddenly froze solid. Ethan kept talking behind me while I walked toward the bedroom door. "Vanessa, please, don't follow me." My voice came out flat enough to stop him instantly. Olivia was still crying into the sheets dramatically, but I could already see through it now. She wasn't heartbroken. She was scared of consequences. That was different. I walked to my nightstand and opened the drawer with shaking fingers. The backup wedding ring was still there. Beside it sat the engagement bracelet Ethan gave me 2 Christmases earlier. I stared at it for a second. Tiny diamonds. White gold. Something he once claimed represented forever. Funny word. Forever usually ends quietly before it collapses loudly. Behind me, Ethan tried again. "You don't understand what happened." I turned around slowly. "You're right," I said. "I don't understand how 2 people can look someone in the eye every day while doing this behind their back." Olivia wiped her face. "We didn't mean for you to find out like this." That sentence hit harder than almost anything else. Not guilt. Not remorse. Just inconvenience. I looked directly at Ethan. "Were you going to marry me anyway?" He hesitated. That hesitation answered everything. I laughed again, but this time it sounded uglier. "Oh my God," I whispered. "You actually were." Ethan stepped toward me carefully, like I was an unstable animal. "Vanessa, listen to me. I care about you." "Don't." He stopped moving. "You lost the right to say my name the second you brought her into our bed." Olivia suddenly hardened. "You're acting like you're perfect." I stared at her in disbelief. "Excuse me?" "You always made him feel trapped," she snapped. "Everything had to be planned, controlled, perfect." I actually felt my jaw loosen in shock. This woman was sleeping with my fiancé the night before my wedding and somehow still believed she was the victim. "You know what?" I said quietly. "You deserve each other." Ethan looked horrified. "Vanessa." "No, stay together. Seriously, please. Save innocent people from meeting either of you." Then I walked out. Someone was knocking on the apartment door by then. Probably neighbors. Probably security. I didn't care. I got into my car and drove aimlessly through Seattle until sunrise. I parked outside an empty diner around 4 in the morning and finally broke down hard enough I couldn't breathe. Not delicate crying. Not movie crying. I mean ugly, violent grief. The kind that makes your chest hurt. The kind that humiliates you even when nobody is watching. Because I hadn't just lost Ethan. I lost the future I built around him. The children we talked about. The house plans. The traditions. The imagined version of myself I'd spent years becoming. And somehow, the betrayal with Olivia made it even worse, because family betrayal changes the shape of trust permanently. By sunrise, I'd made my decision. No confrontation. No revenge speech. No second chances. I opened my laptop inside the diner booth and canceled the wedding. Venue first. Then catering. Then florist. Then photographer. One by one. Every cancellation felt like amputating part of my life. Then came the email to the guests. "Wedding canceled. I apologize for the inconvenience. Please send travel receipts if needed." No details. No drama. Just over. Around 7 in the morning, my phone started exploding. Ethan called 23 times. Olivia called 14. I ignored every single one. Then my father called. I answered because some stupid part of me still believed he might choose me this once. Vanessa, he snapped immediately. What the hell is going on? I canceled the wedding.
I know that.
Why? I stared through the diner window at the gray morning rain. I caught Ethan sleeping with Olivia last night.
Silence.
Not shocked silence.
Processing silence.
Then came the sentence that changed everything forever. Are you sure you understood what you saw? I closed my eyes slowly. She admitted they've been together for 3 months. Another pause. Then, Olivia made a mistake.
Mistake.
I almost laughed. She slept with my fiancé the night before my wedding. People are emotional before weddings, he said sharply. Things get complicated. That was the moment something inside me detached from him permanently. Not because he defended her, because he minimized me, my humiliation, my grief, my life. You're worried about appearances, I realized quietly. Of course I'm worried about appearances, he snapped. Do you understand how humiliating this is for the family? The family. Not me. Never me. I finally understood something painful then. Olivia had never truly been the outsider after adoption. I was. After my mother died, my father rebuilt his life around his new wife and her adopted daughter. And somewhere along the line, I became optional. Don't contact me again, I said quietly. Vanessa. I mean it. Then I hung up and turned my phone completely off. By noon, I was driving south toward Portland with 2 suitcases and a nervous breakdown hidden under pure adrenaline. The only reason I even had somewhere to go was Nathan Brooks, my old college friend. 3 months earlier, he'd called me, talking excitedly about starting a commercial coffee systems company together in Portland. I kept refusing because I was settled in Seattle. Funny how disaster makes decisions for you. When I arrived at Nathan's tiny rental house that evening, he opened the front door, smiling. Then saw my face. What happened? The wedding's over, I said. His smile vanished instantly. What? I caught Ethan with Olivia. Nathan stared at me for several seconds. Then he stepped aside immediately. Come inside. No questions. No pity. No fake optimism. Just kindness. That first year in Portland nearly killed me. Nathan and I built the company out of his garage using $24,000 in combined savings. We installed cheap restaurant espresso systems ourselves. Delivered equipment in borrowed vans. Worked 16-hour days. I barely slept. But honestly, work saved me. Because whenever I stopped moving, I remembered Seattle. Remembered Olivia's voice. Remembered Ethan hesitating when I asked if he'd still planned to marry me. So I worked until exhaustion replaced memory. Months passed. Then nearly a year. Then suddenly we landed our first major hotel contract. Everything changed after that. More employees,
Warehouse space.
manufacturing partnerships.
Regional expansion.
Success came slowly at first, then all at once. By year 3, Northwest Beverage Systems had become one of the fastest-growing hospitality suppliers in Oregon. People started calling me impressive,
Successful.
driven. Nobody saw the truth underneath. I was still running from humiliation. I dated occasionally during those years. Nothing serious. The second anyone got emotionally close, I pulled away. Then I met Adrian Mercer. Ironically, through a lawsuit. One of our subcontractors installed the wrong electrical system in a luxury restaurant project and destroyed $40,000 worth of imported espresso equipment. The restaurant sued everyone involved, including me. Adrian represented the restaurant. The first time I saw him, he dismantled my attorney's defense so efficiently, it was honestly terrifying. Sharp gray suit.
Calm voice.
Absolutely ruthless logic. I hated how attractive I found him immediately. After the settlement meeting ended, I asked him to dinner. He blinked slowly. Are you serious? Yes. You just lost $40,000. And you're still the most interesting person I've met this month. He actually laughed, then rejected me. Twice. The third time I asked him out was at a business networking event. He stared at me over his wine glass for several seconds. You're persistent. I'm selective. That finally earned me dinner, which turned into 4 straight hours of conversation. Then another date. Then another. 3 months later, he asked me the question I'd secretly been dreading. What really happened in Seattle? We were sitting on the floor of his apartment eating takeout noodles, rain hitting the windows softly. I remember staring down at my hands for almost a full minute before answering. Then I told him everything. Ethan. Olivia. The wedding. My father. All of it. I fully expected Adrian to look overwhelmed. Instead, he said something I'll never forget. Sounds like you survived something cruel. Not dramatic. Not pitying. Just honest. I looked at him carefully. You don't think I'm damaged? Adrian smiled faintly. I think you're careful. There's a difference. That was the exact moment I fell in love with him. Because he never treated my pain like weakness. He treated it like evidence of survival. 2 years later, he proposed during a weekend trip overlooking the Columbia River Gorge. I said yes before he finished asking. And for the first time in years, I believed maybe my life wasn't defined by betrayal anymore. Then Ethan's burner message arrived. And suddenly, the dead past started breathing again. The messages kept coming. At first, Adrian and I treated them like background noise.
Annoying. Predictable. Manageable.
But obsessive people rarely stay quiet once they realize you still exist without them. Over the next 4 days, Ethan sent 7 more messages from different burner numbers. I know you saw my texts. Please just give me 5 minutes. You deserve the truth. Olivia and I aren't even close anymore. I made the biggest mistake of my life. That one almost made me laugh. Because 5 years earlier, he'd looked me in the eyes and practically admitted I was the safe option. Now suddenly I was the mistake? Funny how regret appears after people lose access to comfort. Adrian sat beside me one night at the kitchen island, reading through screenshots carefully, like evidence in a trial. He's escalating emotionally, he said calmly. How can you tell? He's changing tactics. First guilt, then nostalgia. Soon, he'll pivot to desperation or anger. You sound disturbingly experienced with this. He gave me a dry look. I'm a litigation attorney. Most people aren't logical when they lose control. I leaned against the counter, exhausted already. I just want him to disappear. He won't, Adrian said quietly. Not until reality forces him to. 2 days later, Ethan called my office. My assistant Jenna buzzed me immediately. There's a man named Ethan Collins on line 2, she said carefully. He says it's personal. The name alone made my stomach tighten. Don't transfer him. Understood. 10 minutes later, Jenna appeared outside my office again, looking uncomfortable. He called back. What did he say? He said you owe him a conversation. I laughed softly under my breath. Of course he did. People like Ethan always confused access with ownership. If he calls again, I said calmly, tell him any future communication goes through legal counsel. Jenna nodded immediately. She was smart enough not to ask questions. The next escalation came faster than expected. The following afternoon, Ethan showed up at my office in person. I was in a supplier meeting when Jenna knocked sharply on the conference room glass. Her face alone told me everything. There's someone here insisting on seeing you. I already knew. My chest tightened instantly. Adrian had warned me this would happen. Still, nothing prepares you for seeing someone you buried emotionally standing in your lobby 5 years later. Ethan looked older. Thinner. The arrogant confidence he used to wear, naturally, had been replaced with nervous intensity. But his eyes were exactly the same. That familiar look that once made me feel safe, now just made me feel tired. When he saw me walking toward him, his face changed immediately.
Relief.
Like he genuinely believed showing up uninvited would somehow fix things. Vanessa! Hearing my name in his voice again felt wrong. Like hearing a dead person speak. You need to leave, I said immediately. He blinked hard. Please, just hear me out. No. 5 minutes. No. His expression tightened. You really hate me that much? I stared at him calmly. No, hate requires emotional investment. That hit him harder than yelling would have. I deserve closure. I actually laughed at that. Closure? I repeated. You slept with my sister the night before our wedding. It wasn't that simple. It actually was. He rubbed a hand over his face desperately. Olivia manipulated things. There it was. The rewriting of history. I almost admired how predictable it was. So now she's the villain? I'm saying things got complicated. No, I said quietly. You made choices. He stepped closer. I've regretted it every day. Then suffered privately. That visibly hurt him. Good. He lowered his voice. You moved on too fast. I stared at him in disbelief. You vanished for 5 years. Because I thought you'd eventually cool down. Cool down. As if betrayal had an expiration date. My voice became dangerously calm. You need to leave my office before security escorts you out. His jaw tightened. You're really marrying him? Yes. You don't even know if you love him the way you loved me. That sentence made something cold move through me. Not pain anymore.
Insult.
You're confusing trauma with love, I said quietly. He froze. Then his expression shifted darker. You act like you were perfect, he snapped suddenly. You controlled everything. You judged everything. You made me feel like I was always failing you. I stared at him. There it was. The real Ethan. Not regret.
Resentment.
People who betray you almost always rewrite you into the villain eventually. It helps them sleep at night. I'm done with this conversation. I turned toward Jenna. Please call security. Ethan looked shocked. Vanessa. No, I cut in sharply. You lost access to me 5 years ago. Jenna stepped forward calmly, with her phone already in hand. You need to leave now. For 1 second, Ethan looked like he might explode. Then he saw employees watching from nearby offices. His pride kicked in immediately. He grabbed his jacket. This isn't over. Adrian's voice appeared behind me before I could answer. Yes, he said evenly, walking into the lobby. It actually is. Ethan's entire body stiffened. Adrian moved beside me naturally, one hand resting lightly against my back.
Calm. Controlled.
Dangerous in the way intelligent men are dangerous. You're trespassing on private commercial property, Adrian continued. If you contact Vanessa again directly, we escalate legally. Ethan looked between us. You think you won? Adrian smiled faintly. No, I think she escaped. Ethan's face went white. Then he left. The second the doors closed behind him, my knees nearly gave out. Adrian caught my wrist immediately. Hey! I exhaled shakily. I'm okay. No, you're functioning, he corrected gently. Different thing. God. That man saw through me too easily. That night, Ethan sent another burner message. You've changed. I stared at it for a long moment before replying with exactly 3 words. Do not contact me. Adrian read the message afterward. Good, he said simply. You think he'll stop now? No. And unfortunately, he was right. Because the next person to appear wasn't Ethan. It was Olivia. I came home from work 3 days later and nearly slammed the brakes hard enough to hit the mailbox. Olivia was sitting outside my house, wearing sunglasses,
Designer coat.
leg crossed casually like she belonged there. For one insane second, I genuinely thought I was hallucinating. Then she stood up, smiling nervously. Vanessa. Every survival instinct in my body activated instantly. What are you doing here? I just want to talk. No. Her face tightened immediately. You won't even hear me out? There's nothing you could possibly say that matters. That's unfair. I laughed once in disbelief. Unfair? She removed her sunglasses slowly. Age had touched her harder than me. Not physically.
Emotionally.
The confidence she once weaponized so naturally now looked cracked around the edges. You disappeared, she said quietly. You slept with my fiancé. You disappeared for 5 years, she repeated, like that somehow made us equal. I stared at her. Then suddenly understood something terrifying. She genuinely believed she was abandoned. People like Olivia didn't experience consequences as justice. They experienced them as betrayal. I built a life without you, I said calmly. That was intentional. Her eyes flicked toward the house behind me. So it's true. You're rich now. There it was. The real reason. Again. Always access. Always entitlement. You didn't come here because you miss me. That's not true. Then why are you here? She hesitated too long. And that hesitation answered everything. Finally, she sighed dramatically. Things haven't been good for me. I almost smiled. Because suddenly, all the pieces fit together. Ethan reaching out. My father calling. Olivia appearing. Not guilt. Need. Something in their lives had collapsed. And now they wanted access to mine again. You should leave, I said quietly. Vanessa. No, listen carefully. I stepped closer. You destroyed my life once. You do not get a second opportunity. Her expression hardened. You think you're better than us now. No, I said calmly. I think I learned. That hit her harder than anger would have. Then she looked toward my engagement ring. That should have been my life. The honesty of that statement stunned me. Not Ethan. Not love. My life. My success. My stability. My future. That's what she envied. And suddenly I realized Olivia had never wanted Ethan. She wanted winning. Leave, I said again. This time, my voice left no room for interpretation. She stared at me another long second, then finally walked back toward her car. But before getting inside, she turned once more. You really think people like us disappear quietly? A chill moved through me instantly. Then she drove away. That night, Adrian listened silently while I told him everything. When I finished, he sat back slowly. They're coordinating. You think so too? Yes. His expression darkened. And they're building towards something bigger. What? I don't know yet. He reached for my hand. But whatever it is, we end it before the wedding. 3 days before the wedding, my father called for the first time in 5 years. I almost let it ring out. Actually, that's not true. I wanted to let it ring out. But some damaged little part of me still needed answers from him, even after everything. Adrian glanced at the screen from across the kitchen. Don't answer if you're not ready. I stared at my father's name, then picked up anyway. Vanessa. His voice sounded older, tired, but still carrying that same carefully controlled authority that used to make me desperate for approval when I was younger. What do you want? A pause. I heard you're getting married this weekend. Straight to it. No apology. No acknowledgement of 5 years of silence. Just business. Yes. I think we should meet. I laughed softly. That sounds unlikely. Please, he said quickly, face to face. We need to clear the air. Clear the air. As if betrayal were bad weather instead of deliberate choices. Adrian mouthed one word from the counter. Trap. I knew. God, I knew. But curiosity is dangerous when it comes to family wounds. Because part of you still hopes for impossible things. Fine, I said finally. 1 coffee, public place. The relief in his voice was immediate. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We agreed to meet the following afternoon at a cafe downtown. The entire drive there, Adrian kept one hand loosely over mine. You don't owe him reconciliation. I know. You don't owe him emotional access either. I know. But my stomach still twisted the closer we got. Because no matter how successful I became, part of me still reverted into the daughter who wanted her father to choose her. The cafe smelled like roasted cinnamon and burnt espresso when I walked in. And the second I saw Olivia sitting beside him, I almost turned around immediately. Of course. Of course he lied. My father stood quickly. Vanessa, you said it would just be you. Olivia looked uncomfortable for exactly half a second before masking it. We thought it'd be healthier this way. Healthier. Amazing word choice from the woman who slept with my fiancé. I should have left. Adrian had stayed outside intentionally to give me space, but suddenly I wished he were beside me already. Still, I sat down. Mostly because I wanted to hear what level of delusion they'd reached. For a few awkward seconds, nobody spoke. Then, my father folded his hands together carefully. I know things ended badly. I stared at him. Badly. That's how he described the destruction of my life. You mean when Olivia slept with Ethan? His jaw tightened. Vanessa, hostility won't solve anything. No, I said quietly, but honesty helps. Olivia exhaled dramatically. We were young. I looked at her in disbelief. You were 30. My father jumped in quickly. The point is, we can't stay divided forever. There is no we. He ignored that completely. I've been thinking about family lately. About repairing things. There it was again. Family. The favorite weapon of toxic relatives. Because they know decent people are vulnerable to it. Olivia leaned forward slightly. We know you've done really well for yourself. Ah, there it is. Finally, the real conversation. I sat back slowly. What do you actually want? My father exchanged a look with Olivia. Then Olivia spoke carefully. I'm launching a hospitality consulting startup. I almost laughed out loud. You're kidding. It's serious. With what experience? Her face hardened slightly. I understand branding. You understand affairs. Vanessa, my father warned. No, let her continue. I'm fascinated. Olivia straightened. I need investors, connections, strategic partnerships. There it was. Money.
Access.
Validation. All wrapped inside fake reconciliation. And you thought I'd help you? I asked softly. My father sighed heavily, like I was the difficult one. You're successful now. She's struggling. Family should help family. The rage that moved through me then felt almost cold. Not explosive. Just final. You chose her, I said quietly to him. His expression shifted. What? 5 years ago. You chose her immediately. That's not true. It is. My voice sharpened. You defended her before you even asked if I was okay. That situation was complicated. No, I snapped. It was simple. She betrayed me. Ethan betrayed me. And you protected them because protecting appearances mattered more than your daughter. People nearby had started glancing toward us now. My father lowered his voice immediately. Don't make a scene. I laughed in disbelief. There it was again. Appearances. Always appearances. Olivia leaned toward me urgently. We're trying to move forward. No, I said calmly. You're trying to gain access to the life I built after you destroyed mine. Her face changed instantly. There. The real Olivia. Cold.
Sharp.
You think you're so much better than us now. I think I survived you. That landed hard enough, she physically flinched. Then Adrian appeared beside the table. Perfect timing. Perfect composure. My father stood awkwardly. Adrian, right? Adrian nodded once, but never offered his hand. You lied to get her here, he said evenly. My father stiffened. We're family. No, Adrian replied calmly. You're opportunists. The silence afterward was brutal. Olivia recovered first. You don't know what really happened. Adrian looked at her with complete indifference. I know enough. You only know her side. Adrian smiled faintly. The difference between me and you is, I believe, evidence. God, I loved that man. My father tried one last time. Vanessa, we can still fix this. I stood slowly. No, I said quietly. You can't. Then I looked directly at Olivia. If either of you comes near our wedding, security will remove you immediately. My father looked genuinely offended. You'd ban your own family? You stopped being family when you treated my humiliation like an inconvenience. Then Adrian placed a hand lightly against my back. We're done here. We walked out together without another word. The second we reached the car, I exhaled shakily. Adrian opened my door carefully. You okay? No, I admitted honestly. That surprised him slightly. I stared through the windshield. I think part of me still wanted him to apologize. Adrian leaned against the car door quietly. People like your father don't apologize, he said softly. because apologizing requires admitting they valued themselves over the damage they caused. I swallowed hard. That's exactly what he did. Adrian nodded once. Yes. The next 48 hours felt tense and strange, like waiting for a storm. Security was increased at the wedding venue. Guest lists were triple-checked. Trespass notices prepared. At one point, I stood in the bedroom staring at myself in the mirror while my wedding dress hung nearby. "You know this is insane, right?" I muttered. Adrian appeared behind me in the reflection. "No," he said calmly. "This is preparation." "You really think they'll show up?" "Yes." "You sound very confident." "Because entitlement escalates when boundaries hold." I turned toward him slowly. "You really don't think like normal people." He smiled faintly. "That's why you're marrying me." The wedding day arrived bright and cold. Beautiful Oregon sunlight poured across the estate grounds while staff moved carefully between floral arrangements and white chairs. Everything should have felt peaceful. Instead, I felt alert, waiting. At 2:07 p.m., Adrian's phone buzzed. He checked the message, then sighed once. "They're here." Of course they were. Security footage showed my father first, demanding entry at the front gate. Then Olivia arrived minutes later. And finally, Ethan. My chest tightened painfully the second I saw him through the security feed. 5 years. And somehow seeing him still scraped against old wounds I thought had fully healed. Adrian noticed immediately. "Do you want to stay inside?" I looked at the screen again. My father yelling. Olivia pacing dramatically. Ethan staring toward the estate entrance, like he still belonged anywhere near my life. Then something inside me hardened permanently. "No," I said quietly. Adrian studied me carefully. "You sure?" I nodded once. "I'm done hiding from people who should be ashamed of themselves." He held my gaze another second, then smiled faintly. "That's my future wife." We walked toward the entrance together. Slowly.
Calmly.
Like we already knew how this ended. The front gates of the estate stood open, just enough for security to move through. Beyond them, chaos waited. My father was arguing with 2 guards in dark suits, while Olivia paced beside him, pretending to cry for anyone willing to watch. And Ethan stood slightly behind them, looking exhausted and desperate, like he still believed this entire situation was salvageable. The second Olivia saw me walking down the stone pathway beside Adrian, her entire posture changed.
Relief.
Like she genuinely thought seeing me in person meant she still had influence. "Vanessa!" she called immediately. I kept walking calmly until I stopped several feet behind security. The guards shifted subtly, creating space between us and them.
Controlled. Professional.
Safe. My father straightened his jacket immediately when he saw me. That public performance version of him appeared instantly. "Sweetheart," he said warmly, "thank God. This misunderstanding has gotten out of hand." I stared at him.
Misunderstanding.
"Even now. Even here. You were told not to come." Olivia stepped forward emotionally. "We just wanted to support you." "No," Adrian said evenly beside me. "You wanted access." Her face tightened immediately. Ethan finally spoke then. "Vanessa, please." God. Hearing his voice in person again after 5 years felt surreal, like reopening an old scar just to confirm it still hurt. But the pain was different now. Smaller. Contained. I looked at him carefully. "What exactly are you hoping happens here?" His throat moved hard. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. That's the first honest thing you've said. Olivia rolled her eyes instantly. Oh my God, Vanessa, are you seriously going to do this forever? I turned toward her slowly. You slept with my fiancé. You act like I murdered someone. The pure arrogance of that statement stunned even Adrian. My father stepped in quickly. Enough. Today is supposed to be about family. No, I said calmly. Today is about boundaries. Ethan took another step toward the gate. I made mistakes. You made choices. His face twisted. I loved you. I actually smiled at that. Sad.
Disbelieving.
No, I said quietly. You loved being loved by me. That hit him hard enough, he physically stopped moving. Because deep down, he knew it was true. People like Ethan don't mourn the people they destroy. They mourn losing access to loyalty. Olivia crossed her arms aggressively. So that's it? You just erase us? You erased yourselves. Vanessa, my father warned sharply. I looked directly at him. No, we're finally doing honesty today. His expression hardened. You've become cruel. I laughed softly. No, I became impossible to manipulate. That silence afterward felt enormous. Then Ethan spoke again, quietly. I came because I needed to explain. Explain what? That I was lost. I stared at him. You weren't lost, Ethan. You were selfish. His eyes watered immediately. 5 years ago, seeing him cry would have destroyed me. Now it just exhausted me. You were going to marry me anyway, I said quietly, even after cheating with Olivia for months. He looked down. That's the part I can't forgive. Olivia scoffed loudly. You act so innocent. You controlled him constantly. Adrian finally stepped forward slightly then. You should be very careful accusing someone else of toxicity while trespassing at their wedding. Olivia glared at him. You don't know anything about our family. Adrian's expression stayed perfectly calm. I know enough to recognize narcissism. That landed beautifully. Olivia's face flushed instantly. My father raised his voice suddenly. This has gone far enough. No, I said calmly. It hasn't gone far enough. Then I looked directly at him. You chose them over me. His expression flickered. You're being dramatic. There it is, I whispered. The same thing. Every single time.
Minimize. Deflect.
Dismiss. I suddenly felt strangely peaceful. Because standing there at the gates of my wedding, I finally understood something. My father was never going to become the man I needed him to be. And accepting that felt cleaner than hope ever did. Ethan tried again, desperately. I still think about you every day. Adrian actually laughed quietly beside me. Not mocking.
Amused.
Of course you do, he said calmly. She became successful without you. Men like you obsess over women who prove they were never needed. Ethan looked like he'd been slapped. My God. I almost kissed Adrian right there. Olivia suddenly snapped. You think you're better than us because you have money now? No, I said calmly. I think I built a peaceful life, and you all came here trying to invade it. That finally shut her up. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Ethan looked at my engagement ring. I just wanted closure. I stared at him for several long seconds. Then answered honestly. Your closure happened 5 years ago.
Silence.
You just didn't like the consequences. His face crumpled. And suddenly I realized something terrifying. Ethan genuinely believed time alone should have earned him re-entry into my life. That's how entitled some people are. They think surviving long enough after betrayal deserves forgiveness automatically. Behind us, another security guard approached Adrian quietly. Police are nearby if needed. My father heard that instantly. His expression shifted fast. Because unlike the others, he still cared desperately about appearances. "Wait," he said sharply. "There's no need for that." "There was no need for any of this," Adrian replied. Olivia looked around furiously now that other guests were beginning to notice the confrontation from farther up the property. "You're humiliating us." I almost laughed.
Humiliating.
Interesting choice of words. "You humiliated yourselves," I said quietly. Ethan's shoulders finally slumped then. Not angry anymore. Not defensive. Just defeated. And honestly, that hurt more than I expected. Because once upon a time, I would have died for that man. Now, I just wanted him gone. Adrian looked toward security. "I think we're finished here." The guards immediately stepped forward.
Professional. Calm.
My father looked horrified suddenly. "You'd really have us removed?" "Yes," I said simply. Olivia's mouth fell open. "You can't be serious." I've never been more serious in my life. For a second, nobody moved. Then my father finally looked at me carefully. Really looked at me. And I think he realized something devastating. I truly did not need him anymore. Not emotionally. Not financially. Not psychologically. Nothing. That realization visibly wounded him more than yelling ever could. Without another word, he turned and walked toward his car. Olivia stared after him in disbelief. "Wait, you're leaving?" He never answered. Because cowards retreat quietly once public humiliation becomes possible. Olivia turned toward Ethan desperately. "You're seriously just giving up?" Ethan looked at me one final time. "I really did love you." I held his gaze calmly. "Then you should have acted like it." That was the final thing I ever said to him. Security escorted them all off the property without further drama. And the second the gates closed again, the silence felt enormous.
Peaceful. Final.
I exhaled shakily. Adrian immediately reached for my hand. "You okay?" I looked at the closed gates. Then at him. Then at the wedding venue waiting behind us. And suddenly, for the first time in 5 years, I truly was. "Yeah," I whispered. Adrian smiled softly. "Good." Then he kissed my forehead once. "Because in 22 minutes," he said calmly, "you're becoming my wife." I laughed through sudden tears. Very smooth transition. I'm a professional communicator. Litigation attorney. Same thing. I shook my head, smiling. Then, together, we walked back toward the estate. Toward the music. Toward the people who actually loved us. Toward the future they tried and failed to destroy. The ceremony started exactly on time. Golden sunlight spilled across the vineyard hills, while Adrian stood waiting for me beneath white roses and hanging lights. And when I walked down that aisle toward him, something inside me healed quietly. Not because the pain disappeared, but because it no longer owned me. During our first dance later that night, Adrian leaned close enough for only me to hear. "Any regrets?" I looked around the reception. The laughter. The warmth. The life we built ourselves. Then I looked back at him. None. 3 weeks later, the restraining orders became official. Neither Ethan nor Olivia contested them. Apparently, consequences are much less exciting when lawyers become involved. Months afterward, my cousin Lily called me with information that permanently destroyed whatever remained of my relationship with my father. "He knew," she said quietly. I froze. Knew what? About Ethan and Olivia, before the wedding. Something cold moved through me instantly. How long? A week before. I closed my eyes slowly. Lily's voice cracked slightly. Olivia told him. He advised her to stay quiet until after the ceremony. The world suddenly made horrifying sense. My father hadn't chosen Olivia after the betrayal. He'd chosen her before it. He was willing to let me marry a man already betraying me just to preserve appearances. When the call ended, I sat silently for a long time. Then Adrian came home and found me staring out the kitchen window. "What happened?" I looked at him quietly. My father knew. Adrian's expression darkened immediately. Before I even explained further, he understood. Because men like my father operate predictably once you recognize the pattern. Adrian wrapped his arms around me slowly. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel grief. Just clarity. Some people don't fail you accidentally. They sacrifice you deliberately. And once you understand that, protecting your peace stops feeling cruel. It starts feeling necessary. A year later, Adrian and I bought a home overlooking the West Hills. My business expanded nationally. We started talking seriously about children. And every once in a while, another burner number still appears. Another apology. Another attempt. Another ghost trying to reopen a locked door. I never answer. Because some endings deserve to stay final.